Hey everyone, in this week's WaterBear songwriting video, we're thinking about the use of loops and beats specifically as a tool to write songs. Would you recommend using loops for songwriting? Is this something you do yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I love to put in, if I want to create a sort of like upbeat song, go and just like use the drummer track, set the tempo, set the BPM, and just kind of have that going, and then just kind of like tap out like a rhythm or something, and come up with little like bass lines in your head, and then write the lyrics and stuff around that, and then just kind of, sometimes I'll even like hook up a microphone and like hum in a little bass line and then write to that, which I think as well, that kind of sets out the song, as opposed to just having a guitar and being like, oh, when this is recorded and produced, it will sound like this, as opposed to you can actually do it whilst you're writing. So that's something I really like to do, yeah.
I think there will come a time where you have to be a bit creative with them, because obviously a lot of people are using them, and people start, not necessarily the general public, but people are still starting to develop an ear for it. Like, I heard the track and I was like, oh, that's the Logic stock tambourine. I just could hear it. But like, if you're just creating a song, it doesn't matter, it's all about creating it. Like, maybe you retrack that exact loop with a real tambourine, but if you've been creative, it doesn't matter. So I'm not threatened by them. I think it's creative. Obviously, like, Pro Tools doesn't have as big a loop library as Logic, so I find myself not necessarily using as many of those loops and presets because I just don't have them. But yeah, I think it's all about being creative. It doesn't matter. It's not a threatening thing. If that's what you need to get that idea out, whether it's what you stick with or it's just that point in time, it doesn't. It's about getting the idea out and being creative.
What's your process for making beats?
I have quite like a standard way I do it. I start off with like the piano or whatever sort of melody is there. That's my starting point. And I always start with a kick. I think for me the kick beat defines a lot of the rest of the song. So if it's a pop tune and it's just 4 on the floor, you kind of know what the rest of the song is going to be like vibe wise. Whereas if you've got like a kick that's like, then you know where that's going vibe-wise as well. So I always start with the kick. Quite often my kick clicks and claps are always like just kind of on the 2 and the 4 anyway. So that's relatively simple. The only time it doesn't is if I'm doing like a garage tune. And because every other layer, like once I've got the kick and the snare, like or the claps or clicks, everything else then goes around that, and you just have fun filling in the gaps. And my favorite way to do that is just to find sounds, and I can hear straight away, like say I've got like there's just like a pattern on a maraca, let's say. I can hear where I'd stick that around it, but I have to hear the sound first to know where I'm going to stick it. And I think that's the fun with the sampling of stuff as well, because if I'm in a city and I sample someone dropping, I don't know, a tray full of glasses, that smash could be a layer on the snare, or they could drop a plastic cup and it bounces downstairs, and then there's another rhythm as it bounces down the stairs, or it could, and then once you got like little things like that, you got the little swing, like, so then it's thinking, oh, okay, so the production around it could be swung a little bit if this is the pattern that I've got. So I think a lot of it just relates heavily on whatever samples I'm using. If they're just single shot samples, then quite often it's just hearing a beat in your head. I do tend to listen to it as if it was a drummer. I often think like, what would a drummer do at this point? And sometimes I just do it on MIDI, so I literally will sit there and play the hi-hats, for example, and then I'll replace the hi-hat MIDI sounds with sounds that I've sampled, or just better kits. I use Splice sometimes if I'm looking for like basics, or layers for kick drums, that kind of thing.
You know, if you're starting out, use loops as much as you want, and on presets. Like, just people like, don't use this, don't do that. It's like, well, if it gets you there quicker, if it gets you where you want to be quicker, and you're getting your sounds quicker, why not? Just, you know, you can then develop it later if you feel.
I'm never afraid of using like samples that have already been made or used. I try to avoid like too much melodic stuff that's going to be instantly recognizable, so they go, oh, that was from Splice. Not that I even think there's anything wrong with that in itself, but I just think it's, you know, it's cooler and it's better for your own name as an artist, as a producer, to use sounds that nobody's ever heard before, which is again why I started sampling stuff in the first place, because it's a fail-safe way of making your own sounds that nobody else can replicate. They can try and make similar sounds, but nobody will have that original sounds file that you had, or you made that click with, or you made that snare with, or you made that kick drum with a falling box. It's just never going to be the same as that. It is harder though. It's a longer process. So like if I'm writing, I'll always use samples, or I'll just always use MIDI just to get the vibe down, and then I'll go produce like later. So that's how I tend to start off with my beats.
So that's it for this week. I hope that's been really useful. Put some comments down below about your preferred way of writing songs. And as always, if you're interested in songwriting, don't forget you can come and study with us full time. You can study with us in Brighton or from anywhere in the world by distance learning, and we offer a degree and even a master's in songwriting.